the battery industry experienced an oversupply, and that has led to continuous price declines across the entire supply chain last year. This, according to experts. With that price war and the price war taking place in the new energy vehicle industry proceeding full steam ahead, battery prices will inevitably decline since they make up 30% to 40% of all electric cars' total cost. Well, the prices of lithium grade carbonate, a raw material for EV batteries, has plunged 81%. That is obviously also affecting the cost of batteries. Well, CATL put out a statement. I didn't understand it. It was so scientific and so way over my head. I had only one person. I had to go to my heavy hitter. So Brian Wang, I thank you so much for jumping in here this morning to help us understand. Apparently, the price of lithium-ion batteries are various different batteries that go into BEVs is going to drop radically.
Yeah.
Walk me through it. I need to understand better.
Okay, well, I'm glad to be here, Randy. So a CNEV post, China New Energy Vehicle post, great site for all the developments in China, covered some new developments from CATL and BYD in terms of their pricing. And they also had a China battery industry report, which they cited as well. So the main thing is that they're saying that the price of iron LFP batteries, the main batteries for most of the vehicles in China, instead of the nickel ternary batteries, the current prices are about $70 per kilowatt hour. That must be at the cell level, right? Because it's not pack. Pack, you add on 25, 30%. It used to be 33%, 35. It's actually coming down. The difference between cell and pack is becoming less, especially if you do a, the body, cell to body type battery. Anyway, so in the article, they talked about VDA batteries, which are basically rectangular batteries. There's some German created standard, probably created by BMW, Mercedes, something like that, that is a rectangular battery. It is, they talked about 170 watt hours in this thing. So basically it sounds like the size of our old lead acid batteries. A big honking battery. It's a big rectangle. Don't know how thick it is, don't know the exact dimensions, but roughly the volume will be like the our lead acid batteries that we've been having in all our cars. So it's bigger than the soda can size 4680s. So it's like a six of them, right? But the most important stuff for us is that they're saying the price is $56 per kilowatt hour, that they'll have that price or less by the middle of this year.
Wow.
So we're like 5-6 months away from the middle of the year. But, these kind of things, do they mean June? Do they mean August? You're still kind of middle of the year. But the most important thing is that an iron LFP battery is going to be in that kind of price range. So, but does it mean that 4680s, 2170s LFPs are at that price? Don't know for sure, but it wouldn't be that far off. Tesla would be saying, I need cheaper iron LFP batteries, right? So the overall trend is heading down. A different form factor battery, iron LFP, is getting cheaper, right? And they talk about heading to $36 per kilowatt hour for iron LFP batteries. They don't give a date.
Right.
But if in 6 months we're at 56, then are we talking next year? The year after? So the cost before, last year was like 110, 120, 130 bucks at the cell level for these things at the beginning of the year. And now we're dropping down to 70. So if Tesla experienced that price drop, at some point in the supply chain, the battery pack cost from, let's say 120 down to 70, 50 bucks per kilowatt hour, that's $3,000 for a 60 kilowatt hour pack from early last year to this year in the already price range. If we get the cheaper batteries or cheaper products, or the price just comes down with the price war, then that drop from 70 to 56 is about $840, right? Another $800,
Wow.
right? And then if we get to the next step, another 800 some bucks, but each of those $1,400 drops. And then depends upon, the per pack thing. So basically, if they're saying these cheap batteries are for the cheap cars, the sub $13,000, slightly better than Wuhan Mini kind of cars that we're talking about for China, right? They're saying we're going to get these roughly lead acid battery type form factors, and you can pack them in. And if you put in, I don't know, 30 kilowatt hours, like a couple of hundred of these things, then you could get to, a 30 kilowatt hour battery pack for a cheap vehicle, or 20 kilowatt hour battery pack for a cheap vehicle.
Right.
Yeah. But the main thing is LFP getting cheaper. Hopefully that means that cheaper battery for Tesla.
And then we already know that lithium has come down, as they mentioned in the other article. Lithium has come down 81% or whatever in the last year. So then the lithium batteries, we already know, we've been talking about this for months, that there's been this glut on the lithium ion batteries, the ternary batteries. So when did Tesla get the advantage of this? We don't know. Is it a continuing advantage? Is there some kind of a contract now that takes into consideration the cost of lithium? I would expect so. Tesla, being the biggest gorilla on the planet when it comes to purchasing this, should have the best purchasing power. BYD, of course, makes their own, which gives them a huge advantage, although Tesla now making their own, eventually that advantage should also come over to Tesla on a even bigger scale than BYD. But in the meantime, the transition to 4680, whether it's Tesla's, whether it's Panasonic, whether it's CATL, so far we're not seeing the 4680s really become the hoped for panacea.
Right. But if we have a slightly longer view
horizon
thing, there's several interesting conclusions that I can make. One is iron LFP will get to $36, $40, $30-$40 range, right? That they're saying, okay, this is going to happen. The fact is, in one form factor, they're going to get it into the other form factors, right? So, and that is a huge cost savings, and the whole, and they'll do it at scale. CATL does things at scale, right? And then, yes, they'll give the prices to Tesla because Tesla is their main customer with 35-40% of their supply. And then CATL can also provide these kind of batteries for megapacks, right? And they supposedly were at 70% capacity, where they were like, they had the capacity to go higher, but they didn't do it because they weren't able to buy. So if Tesla can buy and do this stuff, then it's again to the benefit of CATL and to Tesla. The other thing is that the patents have come off of LFP. Iron LFP was developed in Canada, and for some reason the patents went over to China, and the China has patents, but those patents have expired. So US companies like Tesla can make iron LFP batteries. So after this year of scaling the regular lines with your nickel whatever batteries for 4680s, next year, the year after, Tesla could make iron LFP batteries, right? And then if they could do it at $36, let's say 45 bucks. That's an interesting number, $45 per kilowatt hour. What is that number from? Oh yeah. Inflation Reduction Act, $45 per kilowatt hour. So if my cost is $45 per kilowatt hour, then the Inflation Reduction Act cancels out entirely. It's like free batteries. Right.
Yeah.
So, or even paying for it if you get down to the 36, it's like, give me $9 per battery.
So with that in mind, I would have to believe that Cato Road is already building, creating, experimenting with at least and potentially building some of these lead,
iron LFP.
I'm sorry, lead
Yeah.
and iron. It was always a problem for me in college too. Okay, so some of these iron batteries,
Yeah.
and would be ready, let's say, potentially to even when they do the second line or the second phase,
Back
if you will,
Yeah.
in Austin, they could potentially maybe start switching over even as early as late this year in that facility.
Yeah. If I was running Tesla, or Elon hired me, Elon
Right?
hired me, then I would not try and mess with the chemistry that much for it. I would have it, in Nevada, someplace else, when I'm running another line. So I'm
Mhm.
expanding more and more lines here. Then, yeah, you can do it in Cato Road, get the iron LP going, and then shove it over into something else entirely. But I would definitely want, as a shareholder, want Tesla to do 10, 15 lines, just open them up, didn't change that much, and just get them open faster.
Right. Yeah, gotcha.
Then deal with the iron LP. Yes, I want that, but I want it not to interfere with getting at least 10 lines up.
So on the big discussion, probably the biggest discussion that the shareholders and the community has been having on X and on YouTube, et cetera, over the last 14 months since the first price cut started last December of 2022, the big question has been advertise our lower price. Lowering price does two things. It not only is more competitive against ICE cars and even other BEVs, but it also increases the TAM, the total addressable market, by bringing the price down into a range that more people can afford. So you get two benefits from that, where with advertising, you're only getting the one benefit, which is announcing the fact that you have a really great car at a really great price. Now, I'm not sure that Tesla shouldn't be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So a little bit of both might be the solution. But right now, what we have is a lot of productive capacity in Austin and Berlin that is sitting idle. We apparently have plenty of batteries. Maybe not all of them would if they came from CATL in China, the United States, they wouldn't be able to be used for the $7,500 discount. But as the 4680 ramps, we should have plenty of batteries to have all the US made Model Ys in Austin, and probably in Fremont also be supplied by 4680s or by the Panasonics out of Reno. So one way or the other, we should be able to get all of them complying. It seems to me we should be able to sell 3 million cars this year.
Right. And from the Tesla side, if they operationally or supply chain wise, got that $3,000 out of the package, that doesn't seem to have, they made that announcement, I think, at the last quarterly or end annual meetings, that they had taken $2,000 out of the cost,
Right.
cost of a Model Y.
Right.
The Model Y or the Model 3. I think they said Model Y. So $2,000. So if the price of batteries has come down $3,000 at the pack level,
Yeah.
there's still another $1,000 that has not, the whole did this flow in, at least $1,000 did not. If their $2,000 was all battery pack, but it seems like they are implying they at least were doing, of the $2,000, $500 from the best part is no part,
Yes.
all operational efficiency stuff, right? So just straight up, the batteries got cheaper. That number was less than I expected,
Right.
just from the product side. So the fact that it's smaller than this $3,000 that the CATL people just said. So that goes into, once we just get to $70 for INLP, then the China-made Model Ys and Model 3s should be fully $3,000 cheaper.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't flow over to the, for the cars that are made with Panasonic 2170s and nickel. So then I only get half of it. I save $3,000 on those things, but because I only make half of my cars with those batteries, I don't get the full effect. But thus the cheaper prices that you can sell for in China while still having margin, right? But so seems like we're missing $1,000 there, but maybe it's because how you calculate is fleet wide. And then we have another 1,000 and another 1,000 to go this year and next year from these cheaper batteries. So that goes to, and so if we're talking this year, another $1,000 or $2,000 should be available for any iron LFP battery. And I think nickel is also coming down. So then so it's semi-competitive. So because I think that they were, in some cases they said the nickel iron FP batteries were not nickel, but the nickel ternary batteries were also in this price war situation.
Right. Oh no, we know that for a fact. So I start to think about this from a strategic standpoint, and I was a decent chess player, but not a great chess player because I could never think 3 moves out. I was really good at 2 moves out. I could never get to 3 moves out. But we know that Elon thinks 4 moves out. So it could, and I have a feeling that the folks over at BYD are pretty good too at thinking at least 3 or 4 moves out. So if we've got both of these guys and they're both increasing their CAGRs like 50% a year, sometimes even more, if they're both thinking that way and they're both looking forward and they're saying, look, which, Tony Seba told us in 2014 that this would be taking place, and he's been exactly right the entire time. If Tony Seba said it, and now it's happening, that these prices are just coming down, the more that we make, the more that we see the price drop. And Elon, and I forget the name of the guy who owns BYD, if they're both looking at this and going, look, I know what my cars are going to cost me 6 months from now. I know what my cars are going to cost next year. I know what they're going to cost the year after that, just in terms of battery prices coming down. And then Elon has the other things that he's doing in terms of unbox and 48 volt and steer by wire and all these other things. He says, those are all going to be reducing my prices. I mean, overall, the total car, if you think about it, compared to an ICE car now, is such a simple machine, way simpler, way less processes and procedures, way less parts. Now, and with the gigacasting, I mean, all of it has become so much simpler. So the overall cost of the car sans drivetrain should be dramatically less expensive than an equivalent ICE car. Now you've got the drivetrain potentially being less expensive as well. And they're seeing this future. Maybe that's why it's all about cutting prices every time there's an issue of being able to meet the next CAGR, the next 50%. Not talking about selling the same as last year. No, we're talking about selling 50% more.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that 50% more gets harder and harder as the numbers get bigger, and Elon's and BYD seems to say, okay, we'll just cut prices.
So the thing is, I believe that Tesla has a highly sophisticated model of, I got this battery supply, I got this battery supply, this by geolocation, all that kind of stuff. And then it can go into these products, right? And then I have also a very sophisticated demand model around, if I get these prices over to here, I need to get into not just Europe, but country by country, city by city, all this kind of stuff, right? They have a highly sophisticated model, I'm sure, of this thing.
Yes, we know that.
Yeah, so they know how to move it, and they probably have one adjusted based on what the data that's telling them, here's what happens when we advertise, right? So they have it, down to the car, and not just like, in theory, it should be this, they got it data driven, real time, and it changes, kind of thing. So I don't feel that I can second guess them given the more data that they have, right? I think that they should do something, but it's kind of, the other thing is that, okay, we can say, okay, yeah, it's definitely going to fall to by mid-year, but then something like, I don't know, some Persian Gulf War,
right?
Where some subsidiary of the Iranians, Houthis, start blocking stuff where you can't send oil, can't stuff, and then you shut down your German factory for 2 weeks, and something goes around, it has to go around Africa. Of course, that never happens.
No.
Oh no, wait, it did happen. Sorry, so they can't. So because things are so effed up in terms of interest rates and inflation and supply chain still.
Yes.
I can see why you can say, oh, just put the pedal to the metal and just go for it kind of thing, where someone with more data and more stuff can say, well, I would, but supply chain, whatever part, blah, blah, blah. The stuff is happening in running a, a $500 billion, hopefully, $1 trillion car company and energy company. So, maybe it needs to go to Megapack, something like that. Once we get the other stuff happening where you have some more optionality, where I could put half my battery in the cars, I can put half my batteries in the Megapack, and I can shift it around based on the situation. That optionality makes it more robust, where they still make all their money, but it's less,
The stock is not destroyed by a bad quarter in cars. Yeah, because there's other income that is now being that is just as important or even more important potentially. Yeah, so I guess next Wednesday will be one of the more important earnings calls that we've been through. It's going to be very interesting to see where they come in on. I think we're going to be very interested in where do they come in on actual margins. We're going to be interested in what did they tell us about the future? Do they say things like you just mentioned about, we know that battery prices are going to continue to go down this year. Therefore, some of our price decreases are taking into consideration that we know we're going to be making, that we're going to have savings in the supply chain, batteries, whatever they might be. Do they tell us that they're only going to, or that their goal is only 2.2 million cars? Or do they tell us that there's a range on the goal, maybe from 2.2 to 2.5 or something? I mean, these are all going to be, again, the stock will eventually get there. And as much as none of us are planning to sell any that I know, well, but people are selling. You see, that's the thing. Some people are selling, but eventually it will get there. It's just emotionally difficult to go through all of this. I don't care how long your timeline is, and mine's shorter because I'm old. But it's still, you still have, this day to day. Oh my gosh, it's gone down again.
So I think that we'll need to look at, and we discussed this in another video, is that it's the next leveling of Tesla. Megapack 4680 takes it to the next level, but there's this other next level, which is the various forms of AI.
Right.
And I think that that is the biggest opportunity. So something that people, BYD, Tesla, don't remember is that prior to 2018, BYD sold more EVs than Tesla. It was not just, oh, they're selling ICE cars and hybrids, and they sold more of that. They did, but they also sold more BEVs than Tesla up to 2018. Then Tesla went next level by getting the Model 3 out, and then went next level again with Model Y, and they pulled ahead, right? So, and then also at the same time in 2018, 2017, the BYD sales collapsed. They went totally to practically nothing. And then to relaunch all this stuff, what happened? They had a quality problem where they had expanded too fast, and they made a bunch of crappy cars, and then Chinese people stopped buying them because they sucked. So then they had to relaunch, and now they've rebuilt their quality and standards and stuff. So BYD has misstepped badly before. But then to me is that when Tesla can go next level, then they pull ahead. BYD is a strong competitor, but Tesla has the ability to go next level, either on production with vehicles, Model 2, stuff, but there's these other next level things. Like BYD is already in energy because they just ran ahead with it. But if Tesla does it the right way and goes the right with Megapacks and other stuff like that, and then goes right with the AI stuff, then that's where I think why I'm investing in Tesla and not in BYD.
All right. So what I want to say to everybody out there If you like hearing from Brian Wang with regard to these science issues, there is a website. It is called nextbigfuture.com. There is also a YouTube channel, Next Big Future. And on Next Big Future, Brian and I, every single week, we are putting together the biggest stories in science, whether it's rocketry, whether it's AI, whether it is chemistry, whether it is computers, you name whatever the science across the full range is what Brian covers. And he and I do it together. Why? Because Brian's a scientist and I have a psych degree. Okay, that's a science degree, Brian.
Yeah, good.
I have a BS.
Yeah. Okay.
And many of my friends say that I do BS a lot. But anyway, my psych degree does not help me in a lot of these other categories where Brian has a lot of background and experience. And so what I do is he's my teacher, he's my mentor. He teaches me on this channel. And I listen and I carefully try to figure out what he's saying. And then I repeat it back to him to see if the student has learned. It turns out to be a great way, I think, for folks in the audience to actually engage with some of the science that's fascinating. The things that are happening right now, Brian and I are basically chronicling the next big future. Brian has been doing it for years with the #1 science blog in the known universe. And now I'm getting to help out and help him chronicle the fascinating breakthroughs that we're going through in this second, the second third. No, we're not even the second third yet. The first third of the 21st century. So Brian, they should go check your channel out, right?
Definitely they should. It's on Patreon. Yes.
And also on Patreon. Absolutely right. Support Brian and me both on Patreon. All right, Brian, thank you so much for coming in and helping my channel out this morning. And we will see you guys over on the other channel too. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.